The Photography Explained podcast is supported by rickmcavoyphotography.com/courses. More at the end.
Why do I have so many rubbish photos? And why it's okay and what I'm doing about it. Hi, and a very warm welcome to episode 195 of the Photography Explained podcast. I'm your host, Rick, and in each episode, I will try to explain one photographic thing to you in plain English in less than 27 minutes-ish without the irrelevant details. I'm a professionally qualified photographer based in England with a lifetime of photographic experience, which I share with you, dear listener, in my podcast. Right, here is the answer a bit. Well, this might sound like an odd question, but I've got loads of rubbish photos cluttering up my Lightroom catalogue, clogging up my hard drives, and preventing me from finding the good stuff that must be in there somewhere, surely. So how did I let this happen? Why do I have so many rubbish photos, and what am I going to do about it? In this episode of my Splendid podcast, I'm going to tell you how this happened, how many photos I've got, and exactly what I'm doing about it. And yes, I am doing something about it. And also, why am I doing this now? Why now, Rick? Yeah. Right, so that was the answer a bit. But before I go on, it's okay to take rubbish photos. There, I've said it. We all do it. Let's not try to take rubbish photos, but accept this will happen as we learn about photography. And even after we've learned about photography, we will still take the odd rubbish photo. Don't deny it, just deal with it. Being aware of this now, it will help you in the future. I wish it had helped me. I've got a right old mess to sort out now. Okay then, how do I have so many rubbish photos? Well, my Lightroom catalogue has got photos in it from 2005, would you believe? That's nearly 20 years of photography, starting when I moved from film to digital photography all those years ago. Yes, my Lightroom catalogue has captured my entire photographic journey from amateur or hobbyist photographer to where I am now. It's captured every step along the way, and it is an invaluable record of my personal journey. It really is an invaluable record. But boy, there's some rubbish in there, and now it's time to get rid of some of it. I'm not going to delete everything. There's lots of personal stuff that I will keep forever, and that doesn't count in this, by the way. Right, so what's happened? Well, one thing that's a contributor to having so many rubbish photos is me not being clear about what I'm taking photographs of, or indeed why. Yes, this all starts with what we're taking photos of and what we're trying to do with them. Now, if we're not sure what we're doing or why we're doing it, what chance have we got of getting anything decent? It's a small chance, isn't it? Yeah, when I started taking photos, I would photograph anything and everything with no idea what I was taking the photos for or why. I was capturing anything that I saw, and I was learning and trying new stuff, and this is fine. This is absolutely fine. This is part of the photographic journey anyone serious about the photography goes through. So it's okay, don't worry about it. Another contributing factor to me having so many rubbish photos is me taking too many photos. As well as not being sure what I was taking photos of, I was also taking too many photos. That's far too many photos. I'd go to a place and take 10 photos of the same thing. Then I'd get back and try and find a good photo on my computer. This is what I thought I needed to do at the time. Photograph everything, take loads of photos, cover everything, and then you're going to have something great in there when you get back to look at them all, aren't you? No, you're not. I continued to do this when I started working commercially as well. I'd photograph the front of a building, and then I'd move a bit to the left, take another photo, and then I'd move a bit to the right, up a bit, down a bit, and this continued with the interiors. I'd take a room from every corner, so I had all possible angles covered. I'd take them from high, low, all over the place. I could have 10 photos of a room, and does a client want 10 photos of a room? No, they don't. They want 1 or 2. So for a shoot where I needed to produce, say, 20 photos, I'd take, 200, 300 photos. Yes, really. To put this in context, If I'm photographing a building for a client now and I need to provide 20 photos, if I take 20 photos and edit 20 photos and issue 20 photos, I've absolutely nailed it. Now, this never happens, but rather than me taking 200 or 300 photos, I'll take more like 30 photos. Now, how long do you think it takes to go through 300 photos which look very similar? It takes a long time, and it's very, very boring, and it's quite demoralizing too. So, how do I take fewer photos? Yes, that's fewer photos, not less photos. Every piece of software under the sun has taught me that the correct terminology is fewer, not less. Simple, my one photo rule. Yes, dear listener, my one photo rule. Now, I covered this for the first time in episode 152, and I'm going to revisit this in the new year. Basically, I take as much time as I need to before I take a photo. That's one photo. And I spend the time trying to get the one best photo that I can. And that's my one photo rule. And it is that simple, and it works. Let me give you a very quick example. If I'm taking a photograph of the front of a building, I will have a good look from both sides and from the middle, and I will try and get one photo that's going to be my headline photo of that building. I'll take a lot of time over that, and I'll take that one photo, and then I'll move on to cover the front and the side. I'm not going to take photos of the front from different angles. I don't need to do that. Bit of an ad lib there. Okay, another contributory factor, auto-exposure bracketing. Auto-exposure bracketing is where you take more than one photo simultaneously with different exposures to capture a wider range of lights and darks. And this is what I do, and it works for me. So every time I take a photo, I'm actually taking 3. And if I don't sort them at the time, as in get rid of the rubbish at the time, I've got triple the rubbish to sort later. And this is compounding the number of photos that I've got, the number of rubbish photos, that is. But on the plus side, when I'm sorting through rubbish, every time I delete one photo from a bracketed set, there's another 2 to get rid of, so I'm actually getting rid of 3. So it's not all bad, but I should have sorted them when I imported them into Lightroom. That's the point. Another contributory factor to the amount of rubbish I have, well, the different file formats, RAW and JPEG. I started off taking JPEG photos, and then I progressed onto RAW and JPEG, and then quite quickly after that, I started taking photos in RAW, and I've stayed there ever since. But I made a right old mess of it back in the day. In those early days, I've got RAW and JPEG photos. I've deleted the RAW ones. I've deleted the JPEGs. I've got duplications. I've got all sorts of mess that I need to sort out as part of my Lightroom catalogue culling process, which I'll get on to quite a lot. So get on top of this, and it won't be a problem later. The recurring theme through this. And there's a further issue with edited photos. Now, because I take and edit photos in the RAW format, to give them to somebody else, I have to convert them to JPEGs. So I export photos out of Lightroom in JPEG, and then I can give them to anybody else, because you need specialist software to open RAW files, and I don't want to share my RAW files anyway, because somebody else could edit my photos. Who's going to do that? Where did that one come from? I have no idea. So what I've got is I've got a load of JPEGs from every job, everything. Every time I've ever issued a photo to somebody else ever, it's a JPEG, which is in a separate folder outside of Lightroom. Now, I hadn't thought about this till I was writing this episode, but I realised that there's an issue there, and I probably need to re-import these back into Lightroom. So I'm adding to the number of photos in my Lightroom catalogue, but it's not rubbish, it's the JPEGs. The edited RAW files are still there, but the JPEGs could be of use to me, and it's the good stuff, so I think I need to do that. So rather than reducing the number of photos in my Lightroom catalogue, I might be going the other way and increasing it. But it's good stuff, so it's fine. And it means that everything's in the same place. Probably more on that in the next episode, which I haven't written yet. Right, moving on, Rick. The photos that are okay to be rubbish. Yes, really, it's okay to have rubbish photos. What am I talking about here? Personal stuff, family photos, that kind of thing. This is not a formal requirement for every moment you capture to be perfect. Far from it. Of course, personal stuff, it should be the best that you can capture, because if you're any standard of photographer, you should be aiming to get the best photo every time. But if there's a fleeting moment that you need to capture and it's technically rubbish, but it captures that moment for you, who cares about the technical side of things? Nobody else does apart from us photographers. Of course, always try to take the best photos you can, but give yourself a break if it's something personal. And if there's a risk of missing that moment, getting your camera settings all sorted, just take the photo. It's better to have an average photo now than a technically perfect photo of something that's already happened. I think that makes sense. How many photos have I got? 85,618 photos. Yep, that is the number of photos in my Lightroom catalogue. That's the number when I started looking at this, which was a couple of months ago now. And at the time of writing this, I'm down to 78,728 photos. And there's no way of knowing how many photos I've deleted over my digital photography life, but do I care about that? Actually, I do. I'd love to know how many rubbish photos I've deleted and photos I didn't need or like. This isn't restricted to rubbish photos only. It's any photo you're not going to do anything with, really. Probably should have put that in the script somewhere. When I finish my culling of my catalogue, I'll know how many rubbish photos I had or surplus photos, and I will report back in a future episode on that. Okay, I talked about reducing the number of photos in my Lightroom catalogue, so what am I actually doing about this? Well, that is another story. If you want to know about it now, sign up to receive a weekly email from me, and you can follow my weekly journey from 85,618 photos to who knows what. Yes, I am working on this with a vengeance all the time. Well, not all the time. It's a job I'm working on when I've got time. So head over to the podcast website, photographyexplainedpodcast.com, fill in the form, and you'll get a weekly email from me. And while I'm plugging myself, you could head over to my other website, rickmcavoyphotography.com, and fill in the same form and get the same email. Don't fill it in twice because I think you might... No, you won't get two, then ignore that. Okay, the talky bit. Taking rubbish photos is part of the learning process. I'm sorry, it just is. It's an inevitable thing when we start off taking photos seriously. Now, you don't buy a camera and automatically start to take great photos. That doesn't happen. That's not the reality, and do not believe anyone who tells you this is the case, because it isn't. A great camera does not guarantee great photos, far from it. A great camera does give you more and better opportunities to capture great photos, but don't forget, you can take rubbish photos with a great camera. Never forget that. Taking rubbish photos is fine, we all do it in our own photographic journeys, but what's important is to learn from what we've done and manage the photos we've taken store to minimise having photo catalogues cluttered with rubbish. Go out and take photos, try things and learn all that you can about the wonderful world of photography, but please, if you can, get rid of the rubbish as you go. I have never wished I hadn't deleted a rubbish photo. I've never gone back looking for a rubbish photo that I deleted. Once I've deleted stuff, that's it, it's gone. I'm not going to remember it next week or next year. Probably not the next day, to be honest with you. But if you're not confident deleting photos now, I get that. I was like that for many years. So save yourself time later. Identify them in some way as potential photos for deletion. Don't label them as rubbish, though, because that's going to be a little bit of a demotivating thing. Why not label the good stuff as good stuff and not label the stuff that you know you're going to delete later on when you've got the confidence to do it? That'd work, and it will save you a ton of time later. Or just get brutal now. Delete the rubbish as you go, and you'll never have this problem. Just keep the good stuff, the stuff that you're going to do something with. That's what I do now. And I enjoy getting rid of rubbish and just having good stuff to look at. I really enjoy it. It gives me an immense satisfaction. Right, moving on. What if I use a phone to take photos? In my humble opinion, there is a significant chance you will take more rubbish photos. And this is fine too. I take all sorts of photos with my phone which are rubbish. Now, I'm going to exclude personal stuff, family photos, photos taken as notes or reminders. Now, I take lots of photos with my phone, most with little thought, and most of them are photos I don't do anything with. How many photos have I got on my phone? Let's have a look. Just checking my phone, I have 18,305 photos. That's 18,305 photos on my phone. And what am I going to do with them? Not a lot is what I'm going to do with them. How much rubbish is there in there? Probably quite a lot. Move on, Rick. Okay, what do? Well, I take fewer photos now and I take fewer rubbish photos, which is good, isn't it? And I'm getting rid of as much rubbish as I can. And I'm sharing all this good stuff with you, dear listener, to help you in having good stuff only in your catalogue, whatever software you use. That's good stuff plus all the personal stuff. That doesn't have to be great because it's got a different meaning. It's fine. And don't forget my good old one photo rule, which I definitely need to revisit. So I'll do that early in 2025. Blimey, 2025 is nearly upon us. I've added it to my episode schedule, so that will just happen. And I'm also going through my Lightroom catalogue, so that needs to be an episode next year as well. Sorry, my one photo rule. I use my one photo rule all the time. It's helped me massively, and it can help you. But we'll come back to that in the new year. How utterly splendid. Okay, the good, the bad, and what I did once. Well, I think this episode is all about my bad photography and creating lots of rubbish, so I don't need to say any more, do I? No, I don't, Rick. Okay, some thoughts from the last episode. Something I missed from the last episode, RAW and JPEG, what's that all about? It's the different quality settings you get with both RAW and JPEG file formats, which I'd completely forgotten about. Now, interestingly enough, JPEG and RAW are covered on the page titled Setting the Image Recording Quality in my Canon 6D manual. And there are 8 JPEG quality settings and 3 RAW quality settings. I don't need to go into all these here because I've only ever used the highest quality settings for both. The only reason for using any setting other than the one that gives the highest quality that I can think of anyway would be getting smaller file sizes. But I always want the highest quality, so I use the highest quality settings. So if hard drive space is a problem, take fewer photos. Problem solved. Take fewer photos but higher quality. Don't take hundreds of rubbish, low quality JPEGs. And if you do need more storage, get more storage. It's not that expensive these days. Right, next episode, how to organise digital photos on your computer. Yes, I wanted to continue with the theme of this episode, so that's what I'm doing. The title might change, but the next episode will be about this. And I did think of trying to shoe on something festive in, but I decided not to do this for so many reasons. Let's keep that to other people. Yes, Rick. Ask me a question. Yes, if you got a question you'd like me to answer, email me, sales@rickmcavoyphotography.co.uk, or visit the podcast website, photographyexplainedpodcast.com. Or you can text me from the podcast feed. How exciting. And if all you want to do is say hi, it'd be lovely to hear from you. Get an email from me. Well, I mentioned this before. If you want to receive a weekly email from me, and why wouldn't you? Just head over to the podcast website, photographyexplainedpodcast.com, and fill in the form, and you will get a weekly email from me, which has to be nice, right? And it's a very good one this week, which I wrote before doing this episode. So there you go. Right, I'm done. This episode was brought to you by a coffee consumed before settling down in my homemade acoustically cushioned recording emporium. Yep, another late morning recording, which will be followed by a cheese and pickle sandwich, but no crisps. I've been Rick McAvoy. Thanks again very much for listening to my small but perfectly formed podcast, it says here, and for giving me 27-ish minutes of your valuable time. Now, after I've edited out the mistakes and the other bad stuff, this episode, it's going to be about, 17, 18 minutes long. It's a short episode. What's not to love, eh? Okay, thanks for listening. Take care. Stay safe. Cheers from me, Rick.
My brand new course, How to Become a Real Estate Photographer, straight talking advice for beginners to get you making money quickly and build a career, is available to buy now. Find out more at rickmcavoyphotography.com/courses.